Please welcome the Glendale High School Choir to perform the U.S. and Armenian national anthems.
Our keynote speaker this evening is Maurice Missak Kelechian. Mr. Kelechian is an electrical engineer, a pioneer entrepreneur in the field of IT technology and global high-tech business. He is an independent investigative researcher passionate about finding untold stories of courageous expressions and service to humanity by the U.S. government, its people, and the Near East Relief Organization that became the catalyst for the survival of hundreds of thousands of Armenian victims between 1915 and 1930. He speaks throughout the country, and we're very fortunate to have with us this evening Mr. Maurice Missak Kelechian.
This is my story. My work is a homage to the unprecedented commitment of the executive and legislative branches of the U.S. government. The determination of the American people and the dedication of men and women from all over the world, united under the leadership of Near East Relief Organization, short for NER, to save millions of Armenians, Arabs, Greeks, Jews, Assyrian, Persians, and other minorities during the period of 1915 and 1930. January 1915, Talat Pasha, the Turkish Interior Minister, declares in the New York Times, there is room only for Turks in Turkey. The enemies have already identified. Greeks, Assyrian, Jews, and mostly Armenians are identified. On April 24, U.S. Ambassador Morgenthau intercedes reports of great uneasiness over the treatment of Armenians. But most of all, in September, he sends the U.S. State Department, destruction of Armenian race. You tell me what does that mean in English when the word genocide was not coined then. Destruction of Armenian race in Turkey is progressing rapidly, will you suggest to Cleveland Dodge, Charles Crane, John Mott, Rabbi Stephen Wise, and others to form a committee to raise funds and provide means to save some of the Armenians. Immediately, the U.S. Department of State, under the leadership of James Barton, Cleveland Dodge, as his name, founded the American Committee for Armenian and Syrian Relief in 1915, 2 weeks after Ambassador Morgenthau's telegram to the State Department. And today, Barack Obama, our president, used American Committee for the American and Syrian Relief in 1915. The dawning of Near East Relief in 1918, the Committee of the Armenian and Syrian Relief was renamed and was now called American Committee for Relief in Near East. And in 1919, by the act of U.S. Congress, the name of the American committees was incorporated into Near East Relief, NER. Children were waiting in the snow for admission in the orphan city, which is today's Gyumri, a daily scene from early morning until night. These are the ones. What happened to their parents? How come there are so many orphans? Rescued Armenian girls from harems in Near East Relief homes. Near East Relief ambulances going from house to house trying to collect the orphans. The faces of those who were not rescued. A snapshot. May 15, 1923, the nationalities of Near East Relief orphans. Look at this. Armenian, over 72% were Armenians. Greeks were 13, miscellaneous 11, Syrian, meaning Lebanese Arabs, 1.9%, Assyrian 1.4%, Jewish under 1%. Yes, it was World War I. There was war. There were some orphans. But look at the percentage. Three consecutive presidents, President Wilson, U.S. President Harding, and U.S. President Coolidge. For 15 years, from 1915 to 1930, they advocated the Near East Relief. Why? Show me today any American cause that has lasted for 15 years. I can name Afghanistan, Iraq. It didn't last continuously 15 years by 3 different presidents. Proclamations were made by President Harding, by President Wilson, by President Coolidge, and a campaign will start. A target was set, $30 million, a campaign. But the posters that they made were not just an artist's expressions. They were actually The real raped Armenian mother was really there. Look at it. The lady, the mother, the result of a rape. Look at the details. It's an actual photo of an Armenian survivor and her child in despair. The posters, there were no Armenians there. Look at this. You won't let me starve, will you? I am a little Shushan from Armenia. My home has been destroyed. Father was taken away. Mother starved because of, she gave me all the food. I am so hungry and cold. Thousands of other children are hungry. There it is. Uncle Sam's job. Armenia and Syria. Even bonds were supported by the survivors of war, considered symbol of patriotism to buy US bonds. Armenian Syria. Even the Statue of Liberty has changed. Her torch has become a sword. They shall not perish. The life of an Armenian child is in your hands. And if it need be, I will wrap it up with an American flag. This stamp buys out a meal for a starving Armenian. Uncle Sam, protecting Armenian orphans on the plains of Ararat with ruined churches in the back. There were no Armenians to do these campaigns. It was all pure American social history that the Americans and Armenians have forgotten. Celebrities come to the aid. Charlie Chaplin with the kid. Jackie Coogan, who played Uncle Fester later in the years in Addams Family. Here he is, collecting milk for starving children. YMCA and Tiganis were all, supporting to raise funds. Hollywood stars, Golden Rule dinner. Golden Rule was set up by President Calvin Coolidge, where all Americans will eat regular orphanage food, and the rest, the remaining money, they will donate it to Near East Relief. And here they are, Hollywood stars of the day, doing that. You can read Golden Rule dinner, and they're eating just orphanage food. Motion pictures were produced by Near East Relief to raise funds. Some of them ravished Armenia. Even they created the children's story, Alice in Wonderland was changed to Hungerland because of hunger in Armenia. The poster of ravished Armenia, Alice in Hungerland. We see Alice here in Armenia with American dress and, giving food to Armenians. Between 1919 and 20, there were 333,000 people fed daily. The original goal of $30 million was almost quadrupled to $120 million in today's dollar, worth about $2.8 billion. That's an enormous money of that time. Over 132,556 Armenian children scattered and placed in several orphanages across the region. Logistics challenges. American Near East Relief camels were moving, logistics stuff, food, grains. Near East Relief boats or ships were transferring it through the Atlantic all the way to Constantinople. Trains, 12 carloads of clothing, Michigan's effort to aid the Armenian survivor, nationwide effort. San Francisco, Secretary of Navy, Dr. Wilbur, 25 tons of bundled old clothing. It wasn't only the government. It wasn't only the consuls and the ambassadors. It wasn't only the US presidents. It wasn't only the State Department. They involved the kids. Look at this. Earning in America to give to in Armenia. They encouraged them to sell lemonade, fudge, popcorn, and peanuts, and do some other works, and to donate their cents to save Armenia. Look at this. Children with disabilities lined up to donate for Near East Relief with their little piggybacks in New Jersey. Show me a politician who would donate his clothes, like Mr. Brown in Seattle, and go back, after donating in Near East Relief, go back with a barrel. I'm showing this picture to show you how much America, across America and the world, was involved. From the smallest kid in California, all the way to Framingham in Massachusetts, an elderly and the youngest were helping. They were helping to become foster parents. 850 orphans in one picture. First ladies, Wilson, Harding, they were adopting Armenian children. Take a look at this one. Trachoma Hospital. Look at the line of kids in the orphan city lined out so that their eyelids will be opened and scraped so that trachoma won't blind them. Under American hospital, American doctors in Gyumri, look at the line and still continue. Have you ever seen such a line in your life? Dr. Mabel Elliott, taking care. Award in one of the 36 Near East Relief hospitals. They taught Armenian ladies or girls who were studying in American colleges to be a little army against disease. These ladies didn't know anything, and they taught them to become immediate needed nurses. They gave them hope and courage. They even encouraged them to get married. They put them together, young 16, 17-year-old boys and girls, orphans, and they go and choose your spouses. The orphans were provided with vocational skills, tools so they can survive. They just weren't feeding them only. So they taught them in agriculture, farming, masonry, carpentry, mechanics, shoemaking, shipbuilding, bakery, tailoring, nursing, and barbering. Self-reliance, to knit their own, reknitting their feet of winter stockings. Singer machines were sent from the United States so they would learn how to tailor and sewing. Shoemaking. Binding books, again, American brand Singer. Relearning embroidery and Armenian tradition. Metalworking and forging for the boys. American farming methods. Tractors were sent to Armenia under Soviet rule, under the Bolsheviks. They worked until 1926-27. Bringing back the sense of accomplishment as they planted their own food, their own potatoes, their own cabbages. Even the younger boys, as carpenters, did these tricycles for the little ones, so they can ride and play. These wooden tricycles were made by the older carpenter boys. Ghazir. I've spoken on this on CNN in 2005. This is the location where 1,400 Armenian girls lived under the Near East Relief Orphanage. What happens is, as they become 16-year-old, the only thing that they had to do, they were forced to leave the orphanages. And they were worried that girls at 16 age, if they left the orphanage, they would be susceptible for hard things that might happen to them. So what the only way they could do is just they become maids in houses and endanger their life. So Near East Relief thought of teaching them how to weave carpets. Here they are. This is the Ghazir where the girls are weaving the carpet. And they made the carpet, which Congressman Schiff actively is chasing it. This is President Calvin Coolidge, Mr. Finley from the Near East Relief. In 1925, the girls of the orphanage, they wove their dreams, their lost dreams in that carpet. There is love, dedication, loss of pain, loss of country, loss of housing, parents, sisters, brothers, woven in that carpet. Nobody can stop it from showing it. This is where I found exactly the building. This is the carpet in 1925, before December, before it was shipped to the White House. It was hanging from this. Look at the windows and the arches here. This is the same one I found in Ghazir. The same window, same arches where that carpet was hung from. These are 4 girls worked for 10 months to weave that carpet. This is 2 of them who met First Lady Coolidge. And she offered them to immigrate to the United States, and they said yes. So they were adopted by the 3rd First Lady too. So Wilson, Harding, Coolidge, all 3 First Lady adopted Armenian orphans. And this is one of the girls, Vartuhi Hovsepian, one of the orphans who worked on the rug in the White House after 60 years, June 6, 1986. This is in the White House, and this is the carpet. She's sitting on the carpet that she wove with her own hands. As if the interior minister was not what he said. The following Republican Turkey followed up the unfinished work. December 14, 1920, Near East New York Bureau reports, Kemalist instructions, all Christians must evacuate Turkish territory. It looks the same thing to me. No room, only room, So, Americans and Armenians shared destiny in Near East. They were kicked out of Turkey. Yes, Near East Relief was kicked out of Turkey. Henry Justin Allen, governor of Kansas, later on a U.S. senator, near offices and workers being harassed and seen as Western agents. Sounds familiar, right? American investment and assets confiscated by the Turkish government, just as that happens to the Armenians. American physicians were required to be licensed by Turkish medical institutions to be eligible to practice in Turkey, basically putting pressure on the Americans so that they don't help the Armenians. They needed Turkish license for American professional doctors to operate. And this is exactly what happened. This is the map of Turkey. This is a Near East Relief map where American and Armenians had to leave Turkey. So they moved into Armenia, Tiflis, and northern Iran, Syria, Mesopotamia, Palestine, and also Greek and Romania. So they had to get out before they were operating in Turkey. Once again, Armenian children being deported. 22,000 children got moved to Syria and Lebanon. Papa Kunstler took care of it. It was spearheaded by Americans, but it was an international. Australia, orphanage in Antilles, in today's Antilles, where the church is where this orphanage is. This is in Antilles, under the Australian flag. Same location, Easter celebration in the Catholicosat of Antilles in 2013. Orphanage of Bird's Nest in Sidon. Look at it. This is how it was, and this is what I found it in 2007. Look at the details. The same palace was used as an orphanage. Dr. Stanley Kerr, Nahar Ibrahim, he took care of 634 orphan children. Uprooted from their homeland, abandoned their wealth, and living in little teen shacks. But once again, NER manages to bring back the smile to children. Orphan City in Gyumri, the largest orphanage in the world. 30,000 orphans. Where are the parents? What happened to the parents? 3 meals a day, comb, wear, grain, soup. They had to be provided by Near East Relief. Orphanage a la Turkey. While Americans and worldwide folks were helping the Armenians in orphanages, the Turkish style was Turkifying them. Cemal Pasha and Halide Edip in Antura, where I located the orphanage, they were Turkified. The 5th point in United Nations Act of Genocide is forcefully changing nationality of a child to another one is considered genocide without blood, without sword. Armenian orphans the boys were circumcised, forced to change their names and culture into Turkish, trained to become Ottoman soldiers. But once they lost the war in 1918, immediately, first meeting in Antura of Berta Morley of Near East Relief and Major Stephen Trowbridge of the American Red Cross. Stand by them. This is an amazing map. Read here. Located in New York City, American Committee for Armenian and Syrian Relief. Those are the same words President Obama used in his April 24 message today. But what is this? The dotted lines are where the money came from. And the solid lines are where the money went. So, look at the countries. India, China, Burma, Thailand, Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand. Have you ever thought that these thousands of miles away they were giving money to save Armenians? Again, in South Africa, in Liberia, in Madagascar, in Brazil, in Panama Canal, in Chile, in Argentina. It is mind-boggling. All the went to New York City, and from New York it went to Constantinople, Tbilisi, Yerevan, in Tehran, in Baghdad, in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Egypt. The world got together, spearheaded by the Americans, philanthropy. Near East Relief was not just an organization. It is the roots for the Marshall Plan, Truman's Point 4 program. U.S. Peace Corps was all based on Near East Relief. USAID today was based on that. United Nations Development Program, again on Near East Relief. Look at the countries. US, Canada, Australia, England, Cuba, Switzerland, Danish, French, China, Germany, Sweden, Czechoslovakia, Belgium, Greece, Philippines, South Korea, Japan, and obviously Armenia. In 1917, a royal decree issued by Sharif of Mecca, Hussein bin Ali, declaring Armenians a protected people of Islam. The Syrian sheikhs, with the Danish Karen Yepe and Missak Melkonian, Armenian, rescued Armenian women and children from Bedouins, Kurds, and Turks. Britain today denies, but in 1917, this is a British poster, look at it. It's got the whole Armenian history in one poster. Armenian refugees, Lord Mayor's Fund, 600,000 men, women, and children massacred. Armenia, 1.2 million deported and their homes destroyed by the Turks and Kurds. Help us to save the remnants of this brave and persecuted people. I don't have to say anything. The Canadians, they shipped, grain from northern United States, Northern America, all the way to Louisiana to be shipped across. Russian help in Armenia as well, Hovannes Tumanyan. Even the Pope blessed Near East Relief and gave 550,000 lirs at that time. All these countries, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Egypt, Cyprus, Greece, Palestine, welcomed thousands of Armenian refugees and gave them safe haven. but not all Near East relief volunteers and employees returned home. Over 30 of them died with their orphans. Even they got typhus from their own victims that they were taking care of, and they lost their lives. And every worker was given a medal. Look at this medal. For faith and selfless service to humanity. Look at it. 1915, Near East Relief. And on the other side, the Islamic Crescent, the Persian Lion, Cedar of Lebanon, Christian Cross, and right in the center, Mount Ararat and Noah's Ark, under the Near East Relief Silver Star. Can any Armenian come up with such a logo? This is not an Armenian newspaper. This is not a nationalistic thing. This is American press, American documentation in Gumri, where it says Near East Relief. These are 5,000 orphans lined up to say that you saved us. And look at this one. America, we thank you. Genocide Memorial in Yerevan, Armenia. So, it was created in 1915, just in time during the Armenian Genocide. So, NER organization, Near East Relief Organization, and the Armenian Genocide both turned 99 years old. As I did similar presentation at USC, a lady sent me an email that I would like to read it to you because it gives the whole picture. In 1915, my grandfather was executed by hanging at the age of 45. And my father ended up in an orphanage of Antillas in Lebanon and was cared by the Near East Relief. I grew up with unbelievable stories, constant reminders of pain and suffering of the Armenians who lost everything. To date, a silent Holocaust haunts my generation. The helplessness of whole nation and the indifference of the world and its denial of what had happened to my father and millions of others like him makes us feel like raped victims, violated, ashamed for not doing enough to stop it, ridiculed for making up stories, and blamed for provoking the rape. Dear Missak, your work showed me the courageous faces of the survivors, told me of a world that knew about the Armenian Holocaust, made me proud of the bold actions taken by my government to stop the suffering of victims and the generosity and compassion of countries and people who sacrificed their own lives, their own comfort, their finances, and their political power to help a whole nation have a second chance. Your story gave me back my dignity as an Armenian American, and more importantly, gives me hope that there is a world out there who is in silence, is working on honoring the history of my people and my ancestors. The questions today for us is how to maintain the integrity of our historical tragedy. We don't have to prove to anybody that the Armenian Genocide happened. The world already knows that. The American government, the US State Department, with their telegrams, with their ambassadors, knew that. The American people knew that because they campaigned and raised money. They were there. They lived it through the Near East relief campaigns, through their kindness and sacrifices. Today, in his address on the Armenian Remembrance Day, President Obama made a historic statement, a direct quote from my presentation, acknowledging the US commitment and involvement in helping the Armenians, survivors, and praising with pride the humanitarian efforts undertaken by the Americans and their government to save countless Armenians. However, he once again shamelessly failed to name the perpetrators and why they did it. In order for us to make the memories of our ancestors beyond the tears and the tragedy, we need to make the tragedy not just an Armenian one, but a tragedy for the humanity at large. The US government got heavily involved in the act of philanthropy because its representatives understood, and I quote, "The destruction of the Armenian race is proceeding rapidly." The Americans, Australians, African, Dutch, and Middle Eastern Near East workers worked selflessly and died caring for the orphans because they related to their suffering. During the genocide, some Turks tried to save Armenian lives, refusing to participate in the monstrous act against humanity. More importantly, Turkish academics are now themselves acknowledging the truth inside Turkey. In the words of my friend Robert Fisk, the international reporter of The Independence, on March at the international conference, he said, I quote, "The vital element that was missing in the atrocious argument was not the identification of the victims, but the comprehension that the victims were human beings, just like you and me. If there is a message that will last for hundreds of years, perhaps it has to be focused on the absolute conviction that these people were our people. Their fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters were our fathers and mothers and sisters." If a high school, multicultural choir can relate so beautifully to the Armenian spirit and its story, we as a people should be able to help the American, British, Turkish, Israeli, and the Australian government see themselves in the Armenian orphans, the victims, and the survivors of the Armenian genocide. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 100th year of the Armenian genocide begins tonight. I wish you all a very good evening. I hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you. We hope to see you soon. Good night.